Hello and welcome, and thank you for checking out Ann Arbor's Safe Streets for All program. This presentation will provide an overview of the program and some information and ways that you can provide feedback. My name is Oliver Kiley. I'm a landscape architect and part of the consultant team working with the City of Ann Arbor on this project. Today's presentation will go through a number of items that you see on the screen. We'll cover some background context and overview of the project and schedule, our engagement approach. We'll talk through two specific aspects of the project, the quick build and speed management elements and near miss analytics, and then talk through next steps. So a little bit about the background getting us up to this point. So in 2021, the City of Ann Arbor adopted the Moving Together Towards Vision Zero comprehensive transportation plan for the City of Ann Arbor that really set out a overarching vision for how transportation systems will work across the City of Ann Arbor. And this plan was really driven by the five kind of key values that you see listed on the screen down below: safety, mobility, accessibility for all, healthy people in sustainable places, and regional connectivity. And these values and the plan as a whole really helped drive the city towards two critical goals and outcomes that are going to underpin not just the transportation plan, but the Safe Streets for All work as well. The first of those goals is Vision Zero, which is that no one dies or is seriously injured in crashes on Ann Arbor streets, working towards achieving that goal by 2025. So it really requires rethinking the way that we're designing streets and implementing improvements to make streets safer for people regardless of their mode of transportation or their ability, and make safe streets for everyone. The second key goal is around carbon neutrality. And the idea that our transportation system by 2030 will contribute zero emissions towards climate change. So part of that is providing safer and more comfortable ways for people to move around the city that don't rely on personal vehicles to help facilitate that change towards carbon neutrality. After the transportation plan was adopted, the city undertook a process to put together a Vision Zero action and implementation plan that really started to look at key strategic improvements to make at locations around the city to address safety concerns and safety issues. So as part of that, that also established a speed management program for major streets across the city. And there's a website that provides a lot of detail about the techniques and methods that can be used on major streets to bring speeds down. And this work also implemented what we call Quick Build 1.0, which was a series of 7 quick build projects that were built throughout the city in 2023. And this was an opportunity to make some initial moves towards improving safety and comfort on streets, addressing priority intersections and street corridors. And we were able to use these initial projects to help inform subsequent projects moving forward. Just wanted to share a little bit of information from a background standpoint regarding safety statistics, and this is important information to be aware of. So with the Vision Zero goal, the idea is to reduce fatal and serious injuries moving into the future. You can see the trend line over the last 10 plus years. Generally, crashes have been going down, although over the last year, crashes have gone up a little bit due to what we see as a confluence of different factors around driver behavior, changes in people's behavior post-pandemic, and that really stresses the need to continue to invest in safety improvements system-wide, and that recognizing, without many of the safety improvements that we're advancing, things might be worse than they look today. And so we want to continue to make improvements to improve this safety condition. And we know from data and from looking at crash records and crash information that the most important thing that we can do to address the severity of crash outcomes is to reduce the speed that vehicles are moving if and when a crash occurs. So for instance, at 30 miles an hour, a pedestrian hit by a car, only 5 out of 10 are likely to survive. By the time that speed is down to 20 miles an hour, 9.5 out of 10 statistically are likely to survive. So we can see that bringing speeds down is the single biggest contributing factor that we can do. We also know that the graph on the left speaks to crashes involving pedestrians and bikes as compared to total crashes between 2018 and 2022. So pedestrians and cyclists we refer to as vulnerable users, and as a proportion of how many of them are involved in crashes, they're far more likely to be injured. So again, thinking through safety improvements that improve the safety and comfort, specifically around vulnerable users, is important to help achieve our Vision Zero goals. Okay, shifting gears to talk about the Safe Streets for All program. So the city was awarded a $3.8 million federal grant award as part of the federal Safe Streets for All program. And this grant award was aimed at funding 3 key elements. One was the design and implementation of a second round of Quick Build safety projects, so Quick Build 2.0 across key corridors and intersections in the city. A second point was advancing the city's speed management program that was designed under the previous Vision Zero action and implementation plan process, but advancing that forward and looking for opportunities to implement that. And the third component is conducting near-miss video analytics, which would use the city's GridSmart camera system to actually assess and understand where near misses are occurring and what, if any, safety improvements can be made at those locations to address those near misses and make sure that they don't turn into crashes in the future. Some of the key outcomes and anticipated benefits for the Safe Streets for All program in alignment with the goals: a reduction in severe and fatal crashes on project corridors, reduction in crashes for vulnerable road users, and a reduction in vehicle speeds. For example, the percentage of vehicles driving above the speed limit, bringing that down into more reasonable levels. The schedule for the Safe Streets for All program is going to span over a number of years, and I'll explain in a moment why that's important. Where we are today, transitioning from 2024 to 2025, we're looking at the first round of engagement. We've started to identify locations for where the next round of quick build projects will go, and those are moving into the concept development phase. Through the earlier part of this year and then on into the fall, we'll go through preliminary design and final design for these quick build treatments. There'll be a second round of engagement in the fall, early fall, to review those concepts and to share the design direction with the public. During this process, it's important to note too, as a requirement of the federal grant, it'll go through a NEPA permitting process. And then the plan is for these quick build design concepts to go out to bid for contractors to construct in early 2026, with project construction to occur through the spring and early summer of 2026. And then after the remainder of that year and going into 2027, there'll be an evaluation period of looking at these projects to understand their performance and their impact. Again, making sure that they're performing as expected and gleaning any lessons learned from how they're operating. And there'll be a third round of public engagement to share some of those performance outcomes at that time. Speaking of engagement, for the Safe Streets for All program, first is just recognizing that this effort really builds on a lot of prior engagement, both through the Moving Together Transportation Plan and through the Vision Zero action and implementation plan, both of which had citywide engagement efforts. And so as we drill into the specifics of implementing these quick build projects and the other aspects of the Safe Streets for All program, it's really about putting those recommendations into effect and helping to bring the community along and understanding what those changes are going to be, the timeline for implementation, and getting any feedback on those proposed designs to make sure that they're working as well as they can be when they go out into the field. So the engagement isn't really a question of, if we're doing these improvements, it's a matter of helping to inform how we're doing them and making sure that they work as best as they can. So to give a little bit more detail about some of the quick build treatments that are being proposed as part of this effort, you may be familiar with many of these in the city, but there are a number of corridors where there are just conventional bike lanes or buffered bike lanes without any physical separation today. So looking at opportunities to either buffer or add delineator posts to existing bike lanes to help create that improved separation. Also looking at a number of intersection treatments to support bicycle turning movement, safety, comfort, and visibility for cyclists, such as bike boxes that you see on the screen on the right. Continuing with some of the bicycle improvements, looking at corridors where we can add intersection conflict markings, so the green dashed paint bars, to again help identify where those conflict points are and raise visibility for both pedestrians, drivers, and cyclists. Looking at locations to improve mid-block crossings, and so rolling out additional pedestrian crossing gateway treatments, which are those signs that sit out in the road on lane lines that remind drivers to stop for pedestrians that are entering the crosswalk. And that is also a speed management device because it requires drivers to slow down as they navigate between those gates. And last set of treatments, looking at locations for additional paint and post bump outs. So similar to many that were built in the downtown area as part of the Quick Build 1.0 project. These quick build bump outs are a way to help reduce the turning speeds and slow vehicles down as they turn through an intersection. Helps kind of narrow the width of the crosswalk for pedestrians to get across the street, and provide some greater safety and comfort for pedestrians from that standpoint. And then also looking for some opportunities for hardened center lines, which, similar to paint and post bump outs, are really designed to help guide vehicles through intersections and make them turn more slowly, particularly left turning vehicles, forcing them to turn more slowly around the hardened center line treatments. So wanted to share some insight as to where these proposed treatments are being identified. And to date, we've gone through the process of looking at the next set of priorities for where safety needs can be addressed across the city of Ann Arbor. So there are a number of different corridors and intersections. There's 16 individual road corridors that you can see on the map. Maple, Stadium Boulevard, Liberty, 7th, Scio Church, Main Street going south towards Eisenhower, Eisenhower Parkway, Packard, some sections of State Street, Geddes, and Hill Street and Plymouth Road as well are some of the key areas. And then there are 20 different intersections, specifically some of which overlap with those road corridors and others that are more isolated, that are also opportunities we are investigating for quick build treatments. The other component of the Safe Streets for All program is the near miss analytics that the city is undertaking. So this part of the process will use the city's existing grid smart cameras that are at 61 different intersections to capture data on near miss events that may have led to a crash. These video analytics will allow the team to kind of understand what the conditions and factors are that may have led to a crash and what behaviors helped mitigate that, which will in turn inform future quick build designs or other future transportation safety improvements on those corridors to help reduce and prevent future crashes from happening. So some of the key corridors that are being looked at for this study Stadium Boulevard, Maple Road, Huron, 7th Street, Eisenhower, Packard, Plymouth, Fuller Road, and many of the streets circulating around the U of M hospital. Okay, wrapping up with a few next steps of where we're going next. Over the next month or so, there will be some ongoing engagement activities and opportunities. The Safe Streets for All website is open. You can see the QR code and the URL code at the right-hand side of the screen here. If you follow that link or use that QR code, it'll take you to the city's website for this project. The city has scheduled a virtual office hour session January 7th, 2025 from 6 to 7 p.m. Details will be posted in advance of the office hours on the project website, so you'll be able to access those office hours then. That's an opportunity to come and talk with the project team, ask questions, or get additional information through those office hour sessions. We are also rolling out, starting now, an online survey that'll be running through the rest of December and through January 2025. This survey will help ask some broad, high-level questions about the program and the information that was shared today in case you want to share any feedback. We are working towards a NEPA submission for permitting and for in compliance with the Safe Streets for All grant. That'll be due in January as well, and this public engagement will be part of that information that's translated through the NEPA process. And then, as mentioned earlier in the schedule, we'll get into the formal design phase for these quick build projects early next year, and then we'll be going back out for a second, more in-depth round of engagement in the fall towards the end of 2025 to get feedback and share those design ideas. So with that, reminder again that the survey will be open now through the end of January 2025. The questions for this survey are fairly high level, but do you have any questions or comments about the Safe Streets for All project and program overall? For any of the proposed quick build project locations shared in the map earlier, are there any specific safety challenges or other site-specific conditions we should be aware of? And then last, how would you like to be informed about future updates during this project? And there'll be an opportunity to leave your email and contact information. Again, you can follow the QR code or that link that's on the screen to access the survey through the project page. And with that, we want to thank you for listening and for checking out the Safe Streets for All project, and look forward to hearing from you. Thank you. Bye-bye.